sharing your time.
With Deputy Robert Troy and Deputy Jackie Cahill. I welcome this debate. I think it's important that the House would be kept updated on developments in the European Union, despite the uncertainty in relation to government formation. There are now huge challenges facing the European Union, some of which were dealt with at the European Council meeting last month. These include negotiations on the multi-annual financial framework 2021-2027, the Brexit negotiations, climate change and the EU Green Deal, the spread of COVID-19, the conflict in Syria, the faltering EU-Turkey migration agreement, and the real threat to European values in Hungary and Poland, including blatant discrimination against the LGBT community in Poland. So there's a lot of issues there. Just in relation to the Brexit negotiations, it would seem to me that the EU-UK trade talks have not got off to a good start. It is clear, though, that perhaps there's a certain amount of positioning going on between David Frost and Michel Barnier. The UK has said that it will cease negotiations if not enough progress has been made by June. It has said that it will not seek an extension of the transition period. Big differences remain in respect of the role of the EU courts, the acceptance of EU regulations, fishing rights and financial services, to name but a few issues. There could very well be a crash-out by the end of the year, a no-deal Brexit, if you like. And in that situation, of course, we'd have the WTO tariffs and controls. A crash-out, as we all know in this House, would seriously impact in Ireland, particularly in relation to the food sector, manufacturing and tourism and SMEs generally. So we need a comprehensive free trade agreement to be negotiated between the EU and the UK. And just in relation to the withdrawal agreement and the Irish protocol, there also seems to be some unravelling in relation to that. So we need to commence the putting in place of the mechanics of this agreement and to provide for the necessary checks. Ireland must prepare also for all Brexit outcomes. Every effort should be made to ensure that companies and businesses are ready for all eventualities, and I think the government would do well to pay attention to that. There has been a cross-party consensus in this House in relation to Brexit to date. I know the government think they've done a very good job on the situation to date, but I do think that should not be taken for granted, and I hope that the Taoiseach and the Minister for European Affairs will keep the party leaders and this House fully briefed on future developments in relation to the Brexit negotiations. Just in relation to the budget and the multi-annual financial framework 2021-2027, it would seem that not much progress was made on this issue at the recent European Council meeting. Ireland, as we know, is now a net contributor to the EU since 2014. Our net contribution in 2018 was €315 million. The new President of the European Commission has set out an ambitious programme for the EU for the next few years, including the new Green Deal, among other things. This programme will need to be funded, and the situation is not helped, obviously, by the €75 billion shortfall as a result of the UK leaving the European Union. And I agree with the Irish Government's stance in relation to the multi-annual financial framework. We are prepared to increase our contribution, but we also must protect CAP and also cohesion programmes. Much has been talked about in this House this afternoon in relation to the migration crisis, and nobody could but be moved by the humanitarian crisis now developing on the Turkey-Greek border. For our own part in Fianna Fáil, we express reservations about the deal and the impact that it would have on refugees fleeing war and persecution. While understanding and supporting the need to protect the EU borders, it is essential that the EU abides by and adheres to the fundamental human rights of refugees and migrants. Migration is a complex and challenging issue. Conflict, forced displacement, extreme poverty, smuggling of migrants and trafficking in human beings cannot be solved in a simple remedy. But as a party, we believe it is imperative that all countries take a fair and proportionate share of refugees. So we need a humanitarian response to what is happening in Turkey, in Greece, on the border there. And I'm delighted that that particular issue has been debated extensively in the House here this afternoon.